What happens when one of Hollywood's biggest stars walks into one of daytime television's most unpredictable environments and everything goes completely off the rails? Before we get into this absolute chaos, make sure you subscribe and drop a comment below telling me what you think about what you're about to witness. The studio lights were blazing hot as Tom Cruise walked onto the view set, waving to the audience with that signature smile. The applause was deafening. He took his seat at the table, settling in between Whoopi Goldberg and Sarah N. Directly across from Joy Behar and Sunny Ha. The energy seemed normal at first, friendly even. Whoopi kicked things off with a warm welcome. Tom Cruise, everybody, thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to talk about your new film. Thanks for having me, Tom replied, flashing that movie star grin. Always great to be here with you ladies. Joy leaned forward, already wearing a mischievous expression. So Tom, before we get into the movie, I've got to ask you something that's been on my mind. You could see Tom's body language shift slightly, just a subtle tensing of his shoulders. Sure, what's that? You do all your own stunts, right? You're famous for it. But at what point does it become less about the art and more about, I don't know, an ego thing? Joy asked, and there was an edge to her voice that made the other hosts glance at each other. Tom's smile stayed fixed, but his eyes changed. An ego thing. I train for months, work with the best stunt coordinators in the world, and push myself because I want to give audiences something real. That's not ego, that's commitment to the craft. But Tom, come on, Joy continued, waving her hand dismissively. You're almost in your 60s doing things that people half your age wouldn't attempt. At some point, doesn't it become about proving something rather than serving the story? The audience got quiet. This wasn't the usual softball interview. Sunny jumped in, trying to redirect. I think what Joy is trying to say is that we admire the dedication, but there's also concern from your fans. Tom turned to Sunny. I appreciate the concern, but I know my limits. I work with professionals. Every stunt is calculated, rehearsed, safety measures are in place. This isn't reckless behavior, calculated. Joy interjected. You hung off the side of a plane, Tom, an actual plane, in flight. That's not calculated, that's insane. Tom's jaw tightened. That stunt took 18 months to prepare. We had engineers, pilots, safety experts. Nothing about it was insane. It was precise filmmaking. Or it was a man desperate to stay relevant in an industry that's moved on, Joy shot back. The studio went dead silent. Whoopi's eyes went wide. Sarah looked down at her cards. Sunny shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Tom leaned forward. Excuse me? Joy didn't back down. You heard me. Look, you're a talented actor. Nobody's disputing that. But this whole daredevil persona, isn't it just a distraction from the fact that maybe the roles aren't as interesting anymore? Maybe you're trying to compensate. Compensate, Tom repeated slowly, his voice dropping lower. For what exactly? For the fact that audiences have changed. For the fact that superhero movies have taken over. For the fact that the traditional action star doesn't have the same appeal, Joy said, counting on her fingers. Tom sat back in his chair, and you could see him processing what to say next. So you think I risk my life because I'm insecure about my career? I think you risk your life because you need the adrenaline rush to feel like you still matter in Hollywood. Joy replied without hesitation. Alyssa Fair-Griffin, who had been quiet up until this point, tried to intervene. Okay, maybe we should talk about the actual movie because I'm sure Tom didn't come here to be sentimentalized. But Tom raised his hand. No, it's fine. Let's talk about this. Joy, you've been on television for how many years? A few, Joy said with a tight smile. And in all those years, have you ever done anything that scared you? That pushed you beyond what you thought you were capable of? Tom asked. I've done plenty of challenging things in my career, Joy responded. Like what? Disagreeing with people on television? That's your version of hanging off a cliff. Tom's voice had an edge. Now, Joy's face flushed. Don't patronize me. I'm not patronizing you. I'm trying to understand how someone who sits behind a desk can lecture me about what I do to entertain millions of people around the world, Tom said. Whoopi put her hand up. Okay. Let's all take a breath here. But Joy wasn't done. You want to know what I've done that's scary? I've spoken truth to power for decades. I've challenged presidents, politicians, and yes, even celebrities who think they're above criticism. That takes courage too. Speaking your opinion on a talk show is not the same as doing a halo jump at 25,000 feet, Tom countered. Maybe not, but at least when I do my job, I'm not endangering an entire film crew just to satisfy my need for validation, Joy fired back. Tom's face went red. Endangering the crew? Are you serious right now? Every single person on my sets volunteers to be there. They're paid well, they're protected, and they're professionals who know exactly what they're signing up for. Don't you dare suggest that I don't care about the people I work with. I'm not saying you don't care, I'm saying your priorities might be skewed, Joy said. My priorities? Tom's voice was rising now. My priority is to make the best films possible. My priority is to give audiences an experience they can't get anywhere else. What's your priority? Joy. To start arguments, the audience gasped. You could feel the tension radiating through the studio. Sarah tried to jump in. Maybe we can all just agree that different people have different ways of approaching their work. No, Tom said sharply. I want to understand this. Joy, what is it about me that bothers you so much? Because this clearly isn't about stunts or movies. This is personal. Joy's expression hardened. You want to know what bothers me? It's the arrogance. It's the way you act like you're some kind of superhero when you're just an actor. It's the way you've built this mythology around yourself. Mythology? Tom laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm an actor who loves his job and works hard. That's not mythology. That's dedication. Dedication is showing up and doing good work. Joy continued, her voice sharp. What you do is spectacle. There's a difference. Tom's hands gripped the armrests of his chair. Spectacle. You know what's spectacle? Tearing someone down on live television for doing what they love. That's spectacle. I'm not tearing you down. I'm asking legitimate questions, Joy insisted. No, you're making accusations. There's a difference. Tom shot back. You're sitting here questioning my motives, my professionalism, my relationships with my crew. You don't know anything about how I work or why I do what I do. Whoopi tried again to regain control. Tom, Joy, I think we're getting a little heated here. A little, Sunny muttered under her breath, loud enough for the microphones to catch. Joy ignored Whoopi and pressed forward. Fine, let's talk about something else then. Your personal life. You've had 3 very public marriages, all of which ended. Do you think maybe your obsession with perfection in your career has something to do with your inability to maintain relationships? The entire panel froze. Alyssa's mouth fell open. Sarah looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. Whoopi closed her eyes and shook her head. Tom stared at Joy for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice was ice cold. Are you actually asking me about my marriages right now? It's a valid question, Joy said, though even she seemed to realize she'd crossed a line. You're a public figure. Your life is public. My marriage's ending is somehow proof that I'm obsessed with perfection. That's your logic. Tom asked. I'm saying that maybe there's a pattern. Maybe the same drive that makes you jump off buildings also makes it impossible for you to be present in your personal relationships. Joy explained. Tom leaned forward, his voice low and controlled. You know nothing about my personal relationships. Nothing. You don't know me. Joy, you know the version of me that exists in tabloids and gossip columns. And you're using my marriages, my family, to make some cheap point on your show. It's not a cheap point if it's true, Joy replied. If it's true, Tom's voice rose again. You're speculating about my private life based on what? Your gut feeling? Your armchair psychology degree? Joy's face flushed deeper. I'm making observations based on public information. Public information, Tom repeated. You mean rumors and speculation that gets printed because it sells magazines. That's what you're basing your observations on. Alyssa finally found her voice. Maybe we should move on to something else. Tom, tell us about working with your co-stars on this film. But Tom wasn't ready to move on. No, I want to address this. Joy just questioned my ability to maintain relationships. She suggested that my passion for my work somehow makes me a bad partner. I think we should talk about that. I didn't say you were a bad partner. Joy backtracked slightly. Then what were you saying? Tom demanded, because it sounded a lot like you were blaming my career for my failed marriages. I'm saying that balance is important, Joy said, and maybe you don't have it. Tom laughed bitterly. Balance. You want to talk to me about balance? You work how many days a week? You're on this show, you do stand-up, you make appearances. When do you find balance? That's different, Joy said. How is it different? Tom challenged. Because you're not hanging off planes. Because your work doesn't involve physical risk. Work is work. Joy, passion is passion. And the fact that you can sit here and judge my life choices while defending your own is the definition of hypocrisy. I'm not being hypocritical, Joy protested. Yes, you are. You're saying I work too hard. I'm too dedicated. I care too much about my craft. But if I said the same thing about you, you'd be offended. You'd say I was attacking your work ethic, Tom countered. Sunny tried to interject. I think what everyone here is trying to say is that we admire your work. Tom, we really do. Tom turned to Sunny. Because it doesn't feel like admiration. It feels like I walked into an ambush. Nobody's ambushing you, Whoopi said firmly. But emotions are running high, and maybe we all need to take a step back. I don't need to take a step back, Tom said. I need Joy to explain why she invited me here if she was just going to attack me. Joy bristled. I didn't attack you. I asked you tough questions. That's what we do on this show. Tough questions. Tom shook his head. Tough questions are about my movie, my career choices, my artistic decisions. What you did was personal. You went after my personal life, my motivations, my character. Your character is relevant when you're a public figure, Joy argued. So because I'm famous, I don't deserve basic respect. I don't deserve to have boundaries. Tom asked. That's not what I'm saying, Joy replied, but her voice had lost some of its confidence. Then, what are you saying? Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you decided before I even walked in here that you had a problem with me, and you were going to make sure everyone knew it. Tom said. Sarah spoke up, her voice gentle. Tom, I don't think Joy meant for this to become so confrontational, didn't she? Tom looked at Sarah, then back at Joy. Because it sure feels intentional. Every question has had a barb in it. Every comment has been designed to provoke. Joy straightened in her chair. If you can't handle being challenged, maybe you shouldn't do interviews. The audience gasped again. This was escalating beyond anything they'd expected. Tom's eyes narrowed. I can handle being challenged. What I can't handle is being disrespected in the guise of journalism. There's a difference between asking hard questions and being cruel. Joy scoffed. Oh please. If you think this is cruel, you're more sheltered than I thought. There it is again. Tom pointed at her. Another insult. Another dig. You can't help yourself, can you? I'm being honest, Joy said. No, you're being mean. And you're hiding behind this idea that because you're a talk show host, you have the right to say whatever you want to whoever you want, Tom said. Whoopi put both hands on the table. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. No, Tom said firmly. I don't want to take a break. I want to finish this conversation. Tom, I think a break would be good for everyone, Whoopi insisted. Why? So Joy can regroup and come back with more personal attacks. So the producers can tell everyone to calm down and pretend this didn't happen. Tom asked. So everyone can cool off. Whoopi said evenly. Tom turned back to Joy. Do you want to cool off, Joy? Or do you want to keep going? Joy met his gaze. I'm fine to keep going if you are. Then let's keep going, Tom said. You brought up my marriages. Let's talk about that. What gives you the right to comment on my personal relationships? It's public record, Joy said again. Public record doesn't mean public property, Tom countered. My marriage is ended. Yes, that's painful. That's personal. And you're using that pain to make a point about my work ethic. How is that okay? Joy hesitated, and for the first time, she seemed unsure of herself. I wasn't trying to hurt you, but you did, Tom said quietly. You did hurt me, because you took something deeply personal and turned it into a talking point. The studio was so quiet, you could hear the cameras humming. Joy shifted in her seat, and for a moment, it looked like she might actually apologize. But then her defenses went back up. If you're going to put your life out there, you have to accept that people will discuss it, Joy said, though her tone was slightly softer. Discuss it, sure. Weaponize it, no, Tom replied. There's a difference between discussing someone's public life and using their pain as ammunition. Alyssa cleared her throat. I think we can all agree that this conversation has gotten more intense than anyone anticipated. That's because Joy made it intense, Tom said, not breaking eye contact with her. I came here to talk about a movie that hundreds of people worked on for years, a movie that we're all incredibly proud of. And instead, I'm being psychoanalyzed and having my personal life dissected. Joy leaned back in her chair. You're right, maybe I went too far with the marriage comment. Maybe? Tom raised his eyebrows. Okay, I did. I went too far, Joy conceded, though she didn't sound entirely convinced. But my other points still stand. You do take unnecessary risks. Unnecessary to you, Tom corrected. To me, they're essential. To the audience, they're why they buy tickets. To the story, they're what makes it believable. But at what cost? Sonny asked, genuinely curious now. Tom, help us understand. Why is it so important to you to do these stunts yourself when you could use a double and nobody would know the difference? Tom turned to her, seeming to appreciate the question being asked without hostility. Because I would know the difference. And more importantly, the camera knows the difference. When you're watching a scene and you feel that rush, that visceral reaction, part of that is because what you're seeing is real. It's actually happening. But movies are illusions. Joy jumped back in. That's the whole point. We're supposed to believe things that aren't real. And the best illusions are built on truth, Tom responded. You can have all the special effects in the world. But there's something about practical stunts, real danger captured on camera, that connects with audiences on a deeper level. Or maybe you just can't let go of being the hero, Joy said. Tom's jaw clenched again. We're back to this. Yes, we're back to this. Because you never actually answered the question, Joy pressed. Why do you need to be the one hanging off the helicopter? Why do you need to be the one jumping between buildings? What are you trying to prove? I'm not trying to prove anything, Tom said, his voice rising. Why is that so hard for you to understand? I love what I do. I love the challenge. I love pushing boundaries. That's not about ego or insecurity or whatever pop psychology diagnosis you want to slap on it. Then what is it about? Joy demanded. It's about excellence, Tom said forcefully. It's about not settling. It's about looking at what everyone says is impossible and figuring out how to make it possible. It's about giving everything I have to my craft because that's what it deserves. Even if it kills you. Joy asked. I'm not going to die doing a stunt, Tom said. You don't know that, Joy countered. You can't know that. No matter how much you prepare, no matter how many safety measures you have, you're still doing things that could go wrong in a split second. Life is risk, Tom said. Every time you get in a car, that's a risk. Every time you fly on a plane, that's a risk. I choose to take calculated risks doing something I'm passionate about. But it's not just your life you're risking, Joy said. What about your kids? Have you thought about what it would do to them if something happened to you on a movie set? Tom stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. The audience gasped. Whoopi stood up too, hands raised. Tom, sit down, Whoopi said firmly. No, Tom said, his voice shaking with anger. No, I'm not going to sit here and let her bring my children into this. They're already in it, Joy said, staying seated but looking up at him. They're part of your life, and your choices affect them. You don't get to talk about my kids, Tom said, pointing at her. You don't get to use them to make your point. That is off limits. Nothing is off limits when you're discussing someone's judgment, Joy argued. This isn't about judgment. This is about you trying to hurt me, Tom said, his voice loud now. You've been trying to hurt me since I sat down, and now you're bringing my children into it because you know that's the one thing that will really get to me. Sarah reached out toward Tom. Tom, please sit down. Let's all just take a breath. I don't want to take a breath, Tom said, though he remained standing in place. I want Joy to explain why she thinks it's acceptable to weaponize someone's family on national television. Joy stood up now too, facing him across the table. I'm not weaponizing anything. I'm asking if you've considered the consequences of your actions on the people who love you. Of course, I've considered it, Tom shouted. What kind of father do you think I am? You think I don't think about my kids every single day? You think I don't consider how my choices affect them? Then why do you keep making those choices? Joy shouted back. Because I trust myself, Tom yelled. Because I've been doing this for 40 years and I know what I'm doing. Because I'm not going to live my life in fear just because you think I should. The two of them stood there, facing each other across the table, both breathing hard. The other hosts looked frozen, unsure of what to do. The audience was completely silent, watching this unfold like a car crash they couldn't look away from. Whoopi stepped between them, physically placing herself in the middle. Okay, that's enough. Both of you, sit down right now. I'm not sitting down until she apologizes for bringing my kids into this, Tom said. And I'm not apologizing for asking a legitimate question, Joy said. It wasn't legitimate, it was manipulative. Tom fired back. It was honest, Joy insisted. It was cruel, Tom said, his voice breaking slightly. You know exactly what you were doing. You were going for the jugular. Joy's expression softened just a fraction. Maybe I wanted to see if there was anything that would make you question what you do. What? Tom asked, and the anger in his voice was mixing with something else now, something more vulnerable. Why do you care so much? Why does it matter to you whether I do my own stunts or not? Joy paused, and for the first time in the entire interview, she seemed to consider her words carefully. Because I've watched too many talented people destroy themselves in the name of their art. I've seen too many people who couldn't stop, who couldn't recognize when enough was enough. And you think that's me? Tom asked. I think you're heading in that direction, Joy said quietly. I think you're so focused on being Tom Cruise, action star, that you've lost sight of just being Tom Cruise, human being. Tom stared at her for a long moment. You don't know me well enough to make that assessment. Maybe not, Joy admitted, but I know what I see. And what I see is someone who's running so fast they don't have time to look around and see what they're running from. I'm not running from anything, Tom said, but his voice had lost some of its fire. Aren't you? Joy asked, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're terrified of being ordinary, of being just another actor, so you keep upping the ante, keep doing bigger and more dangerous stunts. Keep pushing further and further, because you're afraid that if you stop, people will stop caring. Tom's face went through a series of emotions, anger, hurt, confusion, and then finally, something that looked almost like recognition. But then his walls went back up. You're wrong, he said simply. Am I? Joy challenged. Yes, Tom said firmly. You're projecting your own fears onto me. You think everyone is as afraid of irrelevance as you are. Now it was Joy's turn to look stung. Excuse me, you heard me, Tom said, sitting back down slowly. You want to talk about fear? Let's talk about yours. You're afraid that if you're not controversial, if you're not pushing buttons, people will forget about you. So you attack guests, you say outrageous things, you create drama because that's the only way you know how to stay relevant. Joy's face went pale, then red. That's not fair, isn't it? Tom leaned forward, his voice calm now but cutting. You've spent this entire interview trying to diagnose me, so let me return the favor. You're hostile because I represent something you can't control. I don't play by the rules, you think I should, and that bothers you. You don't know anything about me, Joy said, but her voice wavered. I know you've made a career out of being confrontational, and that's fine, that's your brand. But there's a difference between being honest and being hurtful. Today, you crossed that line, Tom said. Maybe I did cross a line, Joy said slowly, but you crossed one too. You're right, Tom said, surprising everyone. I did, and I apologize for that. I shouldn't have made assumptions about you. That was wrong. Joy looked genuinely taken aback. You're apologizing. Yes, because even though I'm angry, that doesn't give me the right to attack you back. Two wrongs don't make a right, Tom said. Joy sat there for a moment, clearly struggling internally. Finally, she spoke. I owe you an apology to bringing up your marriages and your children, That was out of line. It was personal, and it was meant to hurt. What? Tom asked, genuinely curious now. Joy took a deep breath. Because I hate watching talented people put themselves in danger. My brother was a stuntman. He died on a set when I was 23. Ever since then, whenever I see someone taking risks for a movie, it brings all that back. The studio went completely silent. Joy, I had no idea, Tom said softly. How could you? Joy's eyes were wet now. When I watch you hanging off planes, all I see is my brother. And I know we don't know each other, but I've watched your movies for decades. In some weird way, I do care about what happens to you. Tom's entire demeanor changed. The anger drained from his face. I'm so sorry about your brother. Thank you, Joy said, wiping her eyes. I'm not making excuses. I'm just telling you why I reacted the way I did. It wasn't really about you. Tom stood up and walked around the table. Joy looked uncertain as he approached, but he held out his hand. She took it, and he pulled her into a hug. The audience erupted in applause. I understand now, Tom said quietly. Every stunt I do it with the utmost respect for the danger. I never take it lightly. I know, Joy nodded. I know you're professional. Tom walked back to his seat. The energy in the room had completely transformed. Whoopi smiled. Well, that was something. Two people finding common ground. Joy and I have different perspectives, Tom said, but I can respect where she's coming from now. And I can respect that you genuinely love what you do, Joy added. You do it with purpose. Sarah spoke up. This has been one of the most intense and honest interviews I've ever been part of. Tom nodded. Sometimes the hard conversations are the most important ones. Joy reached across and squeezed his hand. Tom, I'll be there opening night for your movie. You make incredible films. Thank you, Joy, Tom said with a genuine smile. That means a lot. Whoopi looked at the camera. Tom Cruise, everybody, thank you for being real with us. Tom stood, waved to the audience, and as he walked off, Joy gave him one more quick embrace. The applause was thunderous. If you made it this far, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. What do you think? Was Joy out of line for bringing up Tom's personal life, or was she just doing her job as a journalist? Let me know your thoughts.